and welcome to the Nintendo Everything Podcast. My name is Eric Zarch, and who is joining me this week?
It's Onidino.
How are you, Oni?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Now, I kind of have a big question to kind of start you off for this week. I'm wondering, do you think the Game Boy Classic is next, or are we going to see the N64 Classic?
Honestly, I don't care about either.
Do you not have a heart for like old Nintendo consoles? Is there like a generation gap there or something? What's going on?
No, I totally do. I don't think so. Okay, the N64 PlayStation generation, that's a generation that doesn't age as well as some of the other ones, because that was, polygons and 3D models were just, they're just trying to figure stuff out right then and there, and a lot of garbage came out. And plus, the N64 controller sucks.
Oh, wow.
It sucks. It's got 3 prongs. You never use the part on the left. Like, it's lopsided in terms of weight where you're holding it, where like a quarter of your thing is not even being used. A third of your thing is not even being used. It's just terrible. It's just terrible, man.
Okay, yeah, like the N64 controller, like it was, I admit, it wasn't great, but like I liked it. I just hated how that it always wore out like incredibly fast.
Oh, like the stick, right? Like the plastic dust would come off. And I remember seeing that as a kid and being like, what is wrong with my controller? Oh my God, it's broken. Because, Nintendo and having toys when you're a kid, and you have to like take care of them. Otherwise you don't get another one, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally remember that very vividly.
Yeah, like mine just always got really loose really fast. Like maybe it was my fault, like just going intense at those Mario Party like mini games. We get to wind it as fast as possible, but mine just always got really loose really fast.
But anyway, the controller sucks on the N64.
Moving on. All right, we're back, and we're going to be talking the Adventure Log, which you're probably wondering, what the hell is the Adventure Log? What is the Adventure Log?
Adventure Log is what we've been doing this week, writing down our journal.
So yeah, it's basically what we do every week on the show at the moment. It's just where we come in and we discuss what we've been playing, what we've been doing for the week. And this is a bit more of a funner way of saying it, like we're in some sort of RPG adventure. Now, I have been playing a little bit of Pokemon, a little bit of Hello Neighbor, and a little bit of Full Metal Furries. But I feel like I don't want to hear your update first.
I don't have too much to update you on, though. I've been having some crazy life stuff going on this week, so gaming's been sort of on the down low. But I have been pushing forward in World of Final Fantasy Maxima, which I started playing last week. And that game is still fun, still good, still real pretty to look at. I love the fantastical nature of it, just looking at the game as a joy. And
so you're still playing Pokemon as well, then?
Oh, yes, I'm still playing Final Fantasy Maxa Pokemon. And yeah, it's still going well. Actually, on that note, that is the driving force for me to continue playing this game, is that I just want to catch more monsters and see my monsters growing, and the monsters are super cute, and you can like evolve and devolve them at any time, and as long as you're still growing them on the other like evolution charts that they have, they're still viable even if they're like de-evolved. It's just like they're a different size. The story though is like, I'm on I think chapter 10ish or something like that. The story is kind of thin or weak. I assume that it's going to get much more meaty as I go along, because I do remember you said last week that you wanted to do like a spoiler cast or something in the past, so I assume that there has to be enough story there to talk about.
Yeah, like in saying that, like my idea of a spoiler cast is more like, let's talk about the fun mechanics of the game, than like this has such a deep enriching story, because honestly it like the story, it kind of goes some places towards the end, but it's still not like, it's nothing mind-blowing or nothing that you kind of almost don't expect coming. So I'd love to hear what you think about the end, but yeah, like it's certainly nothing that you're going to sink too many teeth into.
Okay. So no Kingdom Hearts style convoluted story and retcons.
No, it's definitely no 365 over 247 or whatever the Kingdom Hearts game is.
You mean Birth by Dream Drop Sleep Distance?
Yeah,
whatever.
that thing.
God, those titles are the worst. And I love Japanglish, I really do, but those titles suck.
Japanglish.
It is. It's pure Japanglish.
It is. I want to talk about your Pokemon thing for a second there, about like the capturing monsters mechanic. I kind of like when games do this, and I almost wish that we got this more often. Like, it's great when now that it's been done with Final Fantasy, they make their own Pokemon spin, and like obviously it's different, but it's still just kind of that same idea of capturing all the monsters. Dragon Quest has kind of had a similar idea with Dragon Quest monsters. Not that I've actually played that, but like that's kind of another cool take that I'd like to see come back in a bit more of a modern way. And I just kind of like it when franchises have enough variety in their monsters that they can almost do this spin that just creates their own monster catching game.
Yeah, absolutely. I've noticed that trend of like monster catching or raising your monsters or something. That is maybe not nowadays, but before it was quite big in Japan. And I noticed a lot of those types of games, those were often spin-off games or something like that in a series. And they wouldn't come over to the West from Japan. A lot of those stayed over there. And then they sort of started to have them come about little by little. And now we're kind of seeing them all. So like World of Final Fantasy is something that I don't think would have been translated, 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a shame, like, because I really dig those types of games. Any other thoughts on World of Final Fantasy?
Yeah, so a lot of characters I'm coming across from like past Final Fantasies, and they're like little cameos, and they're nice, but nothing substantial. But there are some nods that I found really interesting, and one in particular that I want to talk about is Nibelheim. I just got past Nibelheim, and they do this really weird thing. So they call it Nibelheim in World of Final Fantasy.
Is that English? I haven't played old Final Fantasy games, so hearing someone like who has no idea what Nibelheim is, it's hilarious to hear.
Yes. So you are exposing yourself on stream for not being a #true Final Fantasy VII fan.
I'm not. Like honestly, like let's get this out in the paper right here. I have not played more than probably 3 hours of any Final Fantasy before 10.
Send your emails and hate mail to nintendoeverythingpod@gmail, guys.
They don't. I love the styles of those games. They're hard to get back into. They're very hard. Anyway, this is
I understand.
Eric
you're not good enough.
No, not good enough. I'm just saying, like the spin-off series in Final Fantasy are better than the mainline ones. It's done. It's said.
That's an interesting point. So Nibelheim is the town in Final Fantasy VII, the original game, where Cloud and Tifa came from.
Okay, I know what
and
you're talking about.
It's a huge part of the story several times through the whole game, and it's one of the, I think, strongest points in that game. Like the story that happens there in the past and in the present and then in the future at the end of the game, that kind of thing. Well, not end of the game, but whatever. It's great. I don't want to go into spoilers, but it's great and one of my favorite parts of Final Fantasy VII for sure. So anyway, you go to Nibelheim in Final Fantasy VII. Sorry, World of Final Fantasy. Christ.
I've thrown you right out now.
You have, totally. So you go there in World of Final Fantasy, and that's right after you meet Tifa, her little cameo. And she's from Final Fantasy VII, by the way, in case you don't know.
She sounds like a wonderful character who definitely survives the whole story.
She does. Oh my god, you don't even know. She does.
What?
Yes.
What? Okay, no, don't get into it.
You've got your characters all screwed up.
I do, I know. There's someone that I think dies. It's obviously not named Tifa.
No, Tifa is... Oh, all right, we got to set this aside, and we're going to have a hate cast later on where I can... No, not a hate cast, a shame cast. I'll shame you for sure.
I think there's definitely going to have to be some post-editing or something going on here, because this is getting embarrassing.
So, this town is that Final Fantasy VII. And when you go there in World of Final Fantasy, they're combining like 4 different towns together into this one town that they're still calling Nibelheim. So it's weird. There's aspects of Nibelheim, Calm, and Midgar in just this one. Oh, and Wall Market. These are all locations in Final Fantasy VII. They put it all into this one little town in World of Final Fantasy. And it's just so weird because it's like, man, there's the Honeybee Inn, and then there's the gay spa that they have, and there's even like a little cameo for like this little guy outside of it. It's just a little boy guy, and then he's like, hey, you want to join me? And then like that's it, and just points to a neon sign that says men in Japanese, and so it's weird for people who don't read Japanese. But anyway, it's just weird that they combine all these little things together and they still call it this one little town. And they even combined part of the story of Final Fantasy IV, because you meet Refia from Final Fantasy IV in this town, and they refer to this town as once being destroyed by fire, which is reffiest town in Final Fantasy IV. So they're just throwing it all in a little blender and being like, blah, there's your cameos. Hey, member, that kind of thing. And I'm like, I don't know if I like it or not, or I don't know.
It's so strange that I like this game so much, considering like there are so many references to old Final Fantasy games that like they just went over my head. You know, I got no idea what's going on here.
Yeah, totally. It's totally blowing my mind right now.
So I think it's about time we kind of get into my week, which I've been playing.
Not your week, your adventure log.
My adventure log. I'm sorry. I'll detail my adventure log. I've been playing Hello Neighbor with my nephew. So recently, during the week, my nephew, or my sister, got a PS4 for my nephew, which was very upsetting. It's traumatic, and I'm still not quite over it yet. But she did get a PS4 for my nephew, and I said that I would go around there and give him a hand playing the game. Because he really wanted me to come around. He knows that like I'm a big gamer. He's only 5 at this stage, and so like to him, he looks at me and goes, "Oh my god, I love my." He calls me Aoi, so I'm going to refer to myself as Aoi for a second now. He calls me Aoi, and he says like, "I want Aoi to come around and show me how to be a real gamer." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll come around and show you how to play." And the only game that they've got him so far is Hello Neighbor. And it's not a good experience for kids, I've got to say. Like this is a horrible game for kids because like it's hard for adults. Like you remember old I guess puzzle games, like maybe Adventures of Monkey Island and things like that just had convoluted puzzles that were like, that's nonsensical. Why would you combine those two things and have some sort of answer come out of it? Like, how would anyone ever figure that out? It's almost like you need a walkthrough to play the game. Now, this game isn't like Secret of Monkey Island. It's not a point and click or anything, but it's a similar premise of that you're trying to investigate this big house while the neighbor is trying to catch you, and you're trying to hide from him every now and then. But it's a lot of puzzles to kind of, how do I get to the next area, and how do I get to the next room, and where is the key, and all this type of stuff. And so it was hard to kind of teach him how to play when he already got the basics of like how to control the character and how to move around. But teaching him how to solve the puzzles was like, well, every puzzle is going to be different. I can't really teach you how to solve puzzles. And so I really struggled with that. Like we ended up just a lot of the time, because I didn't even know the answer, we just had to watch YouTube videos, and then, which is kind of, I'll get into that, but that's how we got into this in the first place. So we go and watch YouTube videos of how to progress in Hello Neighbor, and eventually we did get like a little bit further each time, but then I'm like, as soon as I leave, he's going to stop progressing again. And then, so like, I thought, you know, I'm just going to let him go for an hour. I'm not actually going to teach him how, like, tell him where to go next. And it kind of took me back to when I was a child, and I used to play like horrible games, like Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Now, I love this game because like I just played it so much, like, that I can now go back to that game and I can finish it quite easily. Like, not on the hardest difficulties, but on the easier ones, I can finish that game. But
That's impressive.
It's a game that I'd never ever recommend to anyone else, because it's offensive to anyone who wants to play it. It does not want you to finish it. It constantly has cheap deaths and like the controls like a tank, and it's absolutely horrible to even play. But I had fun playing it, even if like most of the time when I went back to playing it when I was a kid, I wasn't really progressing. And so it's just kind of surreal to have this experience with him. But the last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about here with the Hello Neighbor was what I mentioned earlier with like the streamers kind of getting him into this game. And I think in the future,
oh God.
I know. I don't watch streams much myself, but like he gets really into them. And I think in the future, if like I would like him to play a certain game, or like I think a certain game would be better suited for him, I think the only way for me to do that is because it's going to be to put a streamer in front of him that he enjoys playing a game that I would think that would be good for him.
That's so weird. Like they're consuming media in such a different way than we are. Like, it's not necessarily bad. It's just that it's so brand new and it's so foreign.
It really is. It's so weird because like I think it's just a situation of spoiled for choice these days. You know, remember when we were young, we weren't spoiled for choice with the amount of games that we could buy, and so like you just went in there.
Depending on who you ask.
I know,
like,
that's right.
Just having games in general, you know.
Yeah. So like when I went to buy a game when I was a kid, like there was a small selection for me to choose from, and so like there was a few print screens on the back of a box that I chose from, and kind of went from there.
Yeah, me too.
It's a completely different culture of how kids can even get into games in the first place. I mean, and this is just a tactic that I think I'm going to have to use, is finding a streamer to get him into one. And it also kind of brought up the question of like, would a Switch have been an actual better choice for him? And I'm not really sure, because someone mentioned to me on Twitter that like maybe the Switch wouldn't be a good console for a 5-year-old. They're like, sure, they're a touchscreen, and Nintendo makes fantastic children's games, so like that like it'd be very easy for them to get into. But the console itself is rather delicate, and I don't know if he's like at that age that he could take care of something so delicate.
Yeah, right. You know what would have been good? A 2DS.
Yes, that's 2DS would be great. And to tell the truth, here's the thing: I've already tried to get him into games, and I bought him a 2DS for him to play, and he didn't get into it. He didn't like it at all. Like, not that he didn't like it at all. He liked it, but here's the thing, and this is what I'm finding really strange for me at the moment, is that he loves playing games, but he gets bored of them a lot quicker than I ever did when I was like, as I was mentioning with Super Ghouls and Ghosts, if I wasn't really like, and I think it's just a matter of not being really into that game, into a certain game, but like Super Ghouls and Ghosts, I just kept playing that and kept playing. It didn't matter if I died and I was doing the same section over and over again. I just kept playing it, and yet he will pick up a game like that, and as soon as he gets like, we played what was it, the original Mario Brothers, because I was like, okay, no, he has to grow up with he needs a proper upbringing. He's going to grow up on Mario Brothers. That's obviously the first game I was starting on. And he ran into the Goomba several times. And I was like, all right, you just got to press this button and jump to get over the Goomba. He really struggled to get the timing down. And eventually he got it down. So like, he couldn't quite grasp the idea of running across the screen and jumping and like the timing and everything like that. He really struggled with it. And then all of a sudden, like this 3D game where he's got to control 2 sticks, one for the camera, one for the character. And he picked it up, no worries. I'm like, how?
So strange.
How? Like, when we first got into 3D gaming, it took me years to get used to controlling a game like Skyrim or something like that, you know? And yet he picked it up, no worries.
It's very weird because, I mean, of course, by the time that 3D games had come out for us, like, we had already been playing 2D games, and, what's that? Isometric? Isometric? Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think that is.
Yeah, like games like Super Mario RPG. Oh, wait, that didn't release in Australia, I don't think. But games with that viewpoint.
Yeah, it did. Oh, maybe it didn't, but I certainly played it somehow.
Okay. So, we had already been accustomed to video games and sort of, pressing buttons in a certain way. And then, the third dimension happened and it was like, no one can live at this speed. And so I think a lot of us had trouble with it initially. But if he's constantly watching streamers and stuff, then like that's what he's accustomed to. And he's just not interested in the 2D ones, which is, I don't know. Not saying that it's a bad thing. Again, I'm not trying to be like, oh, gamers should do this. There's only one way to be a gamer. Like, shut up, everybody that does that. Like, everybody shut up about that.
I tried to do that. I tried to bring him up on Super Mario Brothers. I'm that horrible person.
No. That's good. That's good. It's good that you tried to do that kind of thing. It's just that, like, if that didn't work, it didn't work for him, and he's, into something else, and he'll probably understand it a bit later. He's 5 years old. He doesn't have any brain folds, exactly. That kind of thing. So, but I just, it's fascinating and a tad bit worrying for me.
Yeah, like it is like a sign of what the future could be, like what we're kind of heading towards. Like, as we said, we've heard a lot in the past, touchscreen display based devices is a lot of what kids are just picking up these days. Free to play games are going massive on those, and they're a lot of what people are picking up. I know, and the streaming culture is just what kids like are deciding what kids get into a lot. Like I said with Hello Neighbor, and so where the future of games is going is not going to be up to us old folk. It's it's going to be up to the youngs.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so I think that's all I got to say about my nephew and his horrible PS4. No, I'm just kidding. I do actually like the fact that he got a PS4 because there's a lot of good games you can play on there. It's just Hello Neighbor was not a good place to start.
It's the second best choice.
Yeah.
Like I said before, it's good that he's not like getting like a tablet for a gaming thing. He's like actually playing a genuine like real video game.
Exactly, yeah. So that's a big bonus for me, who's trying to get him into games slowly but surely. Last game on my list of games, which is probably the most important one, I don't know why I left it for last, is Pokemon Let's Go.
Yeah.
So I have been playing not that much of this since it only came out yesterday, but I played a bunch last night to try get some impressions in here. And I did happen to pick up the Pokeball Plus accessory with my one.
I saw your picture on Twitter. Yes. You picked up both versions and both Pokemon Pluses. Okay, Pokeball Pluses.
Let's not make me sound crazy here, right? I didn't get but one.
I'm not doing nothing. You uploaded that picture to Twitter.
Okay, I got one copy. Nat got the other copy. Like, we have a copy each. They're not. I'm not going and buying 2 copies of Pokemon. I'm not that crazy.
Okay.
Just for the record, just like let's set this straight right here.
Again, send your hate mail too.
We've been over the history of Pokemon with me.
Yeah.
So I got 2 Pokeball Pluses. No, I got 1 Pokeball Plus, and I've been playing a little bit around with that. Now, I did actually get a chance to try this at PAX Australia, so I kind of knew what it felt like already, but I didn't get like a long play session to kind of think, does my hand cramp up? Does it feel comfortable for a long time to play with? And mileage is going to vary depending on who you are. I found that I probably sat down for maybe 2, possibly 3 hours last night and played, and my hand was fine. Like, I didn't find it uncomfortable. It looks small in your hand, but like just kind of grasping it between your 2 fingers, it feels fine to use, and like I didn't cramp up. However, Nat within half an hour was playing was saying, oh, this is like my hand's getting really uncomfortable holding this thing. I think I have to change controllers,
Interesting.
Yeah, and the strange thing is that like I have big hands and Nat has small hands, so I'd like go figure. I don't know what happened there, but it's always one of those things that like no matter when a new controller comes out, like whether it be the Joy-Con or anything else comes out, there's always gonna be 2 sides of the spectrum of people that's like, this is fine, and then there's people who can be like, my hands are cramping up after 5 minutes. So
yeah, that's totally true.
Yeah. As far as is that Pokeball fun to use? Yeah, like I think it's kind of cool. Like it's a really neat idea, and I'm glad they implemented it into the game. Like having this Pokeball, yeah, absolutely. Like when I'm playing the game, just sitting on the couch, like running around, and everything's quite casual. I don't have to do any motion controls when I'm running around, which is like, that's great. It shouldn't be something I have to say that's great, but it is. And so like running around on the map, you're not really doing any stupid movements. It's only when you get into a battle and then you want to catch a Pokemon. And it does have this like wrist strap on the Pokeball itself that you're supposed to use with it. I didn't really I used a wrist strap, but like, it also has a finger strap that you're supposed to use. Don't worry about, like, honestly, don't go with just leave the finger strap off. It's uncomfortable. It feels silly to wear this thing around your finger at the same time, and it's you got it strapped to your hand. It's not going to go far anyway. So
I don't know. I think that you're going to end up throwing that Pokeball right through the TV along with the Wiimote, and then you're going to have a Pokeball and a Wiimote in your TV.
So I'm going to check YouTube in a second actually to see if anyone's done that yet. Like, surely there's someone who's thrown the Pokeball into their TV already.
Surely. There's a lot of stupid people out there,
Yeah, there's definitely, like, someone's done it for the clicks already. But yeah, so the wrist strap, just wear that. Don't worry about the stupid little thing that goes around your finger. Apart from that, I've been having fun just playing this really casually. Like, it's just that type of game that it's not really grinding against you to play. It's kind of really easy to get into. But that does kind of beg the question, is it too casual? And I think that's kind of the biggest thing going into this Pokemon game is like, it's a really, really heavily casual Pokemon game. And like the thing is that Pokemon was never a hardcore series in the first place. Like, you think about the original Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, Green, these were all really inspired by Dragon Quest, and the idea is that behind Dragon Quest is that it was an RPG that you could just go home and you could go up against a boss, and if that boss is too hard, you could just go grind, and if you die or faint or whatever you want to call it, you just get sent back. In Dragon Quest you lost half your money, but you just get sent back and you keep all your experience and everything like that, and then just continue to go grind on enemies until eventually you could verse that boss and beat them. And Pokemon was the same premise. Like, when you went into Pokemon, if you ever got stuck on a gym leader, you would simply go out into the field, verse some Pokemon. If you fainted or if anything like that happened, it didn't matter. You could just continue working towards getting stronger so that you could eventually beat the gym. Now, obviously, this doesn't lose that. Like, it still does that same type of thing. But the biggest problem here is that, like, why do I have to just catch them in a Pokeball? Like, you literally just jump into an encounter and then you throw your Pokeball at them, and the only battles you have is when you come up against a trainer.
So how are you leveling up your Pokemon then? Is it like sort of Pokemon Go style where you're catching all of these Pokemon and then it's turning into candy or something like that, and that's how you use it to level up your Pokemon?
No. So, like, leveling up your Pokemon is basically every time you catch a Pokemon, you get experience for catching them, and you get like bonuses depending on like whether you do a good throw or whether you caught them on the first turn and things like that. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, you're still getting experience just for catching Pokemon, and they like overload you with Pokeballs. Like, right from the start, they throw 50 Pokeballs at you, and like every trainer you defeat throws Pokeballs at you to continue catching Pokemon. So it's not like you still get experience for versing the trainers as well, but like, honestly, you actually get more experience, I think, for just catching Pokemon out in the wild than you do trainers. So it's like they're mostly there for money. And
Interesting.
this is what's super weird to me is like, why did they have to do that? Like, I understand it's good to kind of capture that casual crowd, and maybe that's the vision they had for this game. But here's the thing: is that why didn't they just include 2 modes? They could have literally had the game boot up. It's in the mode that it is now, which let's for sake call it Go mode. So, and in Go mode, you just run around, and when you encounter Pokemon, you're doing Pokemon Go and throw the Pokeball at them and catch them. But then why not have a classic mode? I mean, you are literally going back to Pokemon Blue and Red and Green type thing here. So why not have a classic mode that says, all right, well, if you switch this option on, you are going to be playing the classic way where when you encounter a Pokemon on the map, like still have them on the map, still have it the same, but when you encounter the Pokemon on the map, it just takes you into a battle with that Pokemon and you can battle them the normal way you do and get experience that way. They already have the engine in game to do that, because you do battles against Pokemon in the game. So it's not like it would be that much extra work just to say that, encountering these Pokemon is a battle.
Yeah, I do agree with that, like, because I am all about options in gaming, and I love when people complain about, like, oh, I can't believe that they're doing this thing. It's like, they're just giving you another option, that kind of thing. But, so, like, if this had, like, a Go mode and a regular mode, that's cool because there's options. But I feel like probably they want to push the marketing aspect of this kind of spin-off thing. It's called Let's Go in the first place, so it's specifically trying to be very connected to Pokemon Go. And I mean, we won't know until this time next year, but I think that they're also trying to keep it fairly noticeably different from their mainline series. They don't want people to think like, oh, this is the mainline series. I mean, I could be projecting, but I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of feel like you're right there. Like, I definitely feel like they've been very clear about next year is going to be back to a mainline experience, and that this year is definitely the spin-off of, like, this is its own type of game. It's just strange to me that, like, it feels like it's almost pushing away the classic Pokemon player by not having the options.
It is weird because it's like, okay, who exactly is this for? Like, my first thought is, like, it's for the people who have been playing Pokemon Go and they're trying to get them to also buy the Switch and yada, yada, yada. But I don't know. I don't see that happening so much. And then it is sort of alienating the hardcore Pokemon crowd that does I don't even know what the things are called, but like those points. Oh, sorry for the people listening. Those points, that are like invisible and you have to like catch the right amount.
Oh, like the Eevee stats or whatever they are.
Yeah, like all that crazy stuff. And then it's also like the casual Pokemon fans, like I would consider myself, where like I just play the game, I catch which ones are cute, and I level up the cute ones, and that's it. I play the game and I beat the game, and I play a little bit more, and that's it. It's also not really aimed at me, so I'm like, who is this exactly for? But I mean, that said, I don't dislike the idea of the game. I do think I'll pick it up in the future, but yeah, I don't know. It is quite an anomaly.
Yeah, it's really been something that's strange and stood out to me there. Like you said, is who is it for? I don't really have much else to kind of go on with Pokemon here. Like the classic experience. So you're going to be playing the same game that you kind of did back then, brought to be more modern. So like there's a lot of kind of good things that have happened here. So like at the start of the game, you go to the first town and then you're asked to deliver mail back to Professor Oak. And instead of like normally in the old game, it was like, okay, now I've got to track all the way back down there and deliver it. But now it's like, do you want to go straight to Professor Oak? And it's like, oh yeah, well that'd be good.
That's nice. Little quality of life options right there. Like, see something like that little option, you can say no, it's fine.
Yeah,
like
so
that stuff.
Exactly, me too. And this is like, so it's the least kind of a Pokemon game that it pushes you away the least. It really kind of welcomes in players and said, this is going to be quite easy to get into. And it feels like a weird discussion to have after like last week saying, I never want Kirby to be hard. I want this to be the casual game that everyone can play. But yeah, like for me, Pokemon just feels like the game was already easy enough, and the fact that like you could always just grind to be better. That I don't know whether this is too casual and who the target audience is for. Just to reiterate that one more time.
Yeah. I guess the takeaway, though, is, I mean, you've only been playing it a couple of hours, but are you enjoying yourself so far?
Absolutely. And that's I did want to mention that. Thank you for bringing that up before I quickly moved on. Is that
you're welcome.
I like, apart from the fact that I'm missing like normal battles everywhere, every other part of this game I'm loving. I'm loving the art style. I'm loving just replaying, and maybe it's nostalgia, but I'm loving replaying through this story. Like just the battles and and everything else about this game is just so fun and welcoming. That is the only one thing, and like it's bad to kind of sit on that one bad thing for the entire part that I'm talking about Pokemon almost. But it's just something that really stuck out to me. So the first trailer for the Detective Pikachu movie finally kind of dropped. We got a little bit of rumblings, I think the previous week, saying that, there's supposed to be a trailer coming, but it finally dropped. We finally got to see what Pikachu looks like in real life, if anyone ever wanted to see that. What do you think of this?
I think it looks surprisingly good. Like, it's weird. It is a video game movie, okay? We need to establish that caveat. So the curse is still upon them that this is a video game movie, right?
It's going to be bad. We know that much.
Right? But honestly, it looks good. It looks cute. I'm sure it's going to be a very mainstream movie, of course, and it's going to be very by the numbers and zero surprises there in terms of storytelling or whatever. You know, it's going to be like the amazing, fantastical moments, the comedy moments, the tension where, you know, they break apart, then they come back together and the friendship got them through it, and everything's going to be sort of happy, and there's going to be a little bit of a twist or a little bit of a stinger at the end. You know what I mean? It's going to be, I gave you the movie right there. I gave it to you. I know I gave it to you. Anyway, going back, it looks cute. It's not going to be any surprises or anything like that, but it looks like it's going to actually be like a decent sit for an hour and a half, you know? And the Pokemon, I think, look good. Like, I love when people are freaking out over the way that they look. It's just like people freaking out. I made a comment about this, but they're upset over the realism of fake creatures, and it's just I love when people write these unrealistic, crazy, unbelievably angry comments. You know, they're just typing away in indignation like this, and it's just it is my food. It feeds me. I grow powerful, and it is just an absolute snack every moment of the day for me. So keep doing that, guys.
I'm the same. I love reading those. Like, just it's almost like they that full of, as you said, indignation that they don't even know what they're typing. They're literally just smashing words out on their keyboard that like eventually somehow relates to a sentence about hating on the way that Pokemon looks.
Yeah, exactly. Like I get it. Like maybe not liking something, but like just don't be such a freaking turd about it. Like, Jesus.
I'm the same boat as you though. Like I like the way this looks. I like the way Pikachu looks. Whenever I imagine Pokemon, how would Pokemon work in real life? I couldn't. I'm just like, I don't know how these cartoonish characters could ever translate to like the being in the real world in any way. And they've done a really good job of it here. Like they look the way they should. They also look a little bit creepy, some of them, but like I think they're meant to, you know?
Lots of them are freaking creepy. Like, I mean, lots of them are. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do want to say that, like, yeah, Pikachu looks really good to me, and I like his little eyes. Like, there's something that they changed a little bit there in this, and I can't quite put my finger on it because I'm not staring at this, but Pikachu seems to have like more puppy eyes or something like that. I don't know what's going on there, but I like it.
Cutesy eyes. Yeah, he definitely has the cutesy eyes going.
His fur looks nice.
Yeah, like, and as far as the creepy ones, like Mr. Mime's definitely got this kind of creepy thing going, which I'm liking.
Mr. Mime has always been weird looking and discomfort inducing. I don't know about you, but the first time I saw that when I was a kid, I was like, oh, it's making me feel like an adult, you know? Like, and I can't believe that people are like saying, oh, he's weird looking and I don't like the way he looks in the movie and it's making him look weird. He's a weird character. He looks awful.
They captured him perfectly. That's what they were meant to do.
They did a great job. He's a travesty, dude.
Same with like Psyduck. Like Psyduck is meant to look like
oh my God,
confused
he's a nightmare.
And like it doesn't know what's going on, and it's a nightmare. It's perfect.
Yes, it looks like he's like missing a layer of skin. And I love it. It's like, give me all of this like creepy Psyduck nonsense. Like Psyduck is such a monstrosity that you can relate to, where he's like, I can't handle this is too much, man. Give me a second. You know, I relate to that, in where he's like, just everything freaks him out, and he's like, okay, listen, no matter what I do, the go-to plan is step 1, panic. And I'm just all about that. Sorry, I got a little excited there. I like Psyduck.
I can tell you really took the Psyduck away on me. But like reeling it back into, but staying on the Psyduck track there, how does she carry Psyduck on her back? That is, so first of all, Psyduck weighs 20 kilograms or 43 pounds, whatever metric you use here. But like that, it's not unbelievably heavy. But carrying that much around on your back, like I don't know if you've ever lifted like a 20-kilogram bag of cement. That's pretty heavy. I wouldn't want to carry that around on my back all day. That would really like
He's
kind
a
of
fatty.
break the back. Yeah,
He's a stress eater, I think. I think he stress eats.
He's definitely stress eats. Like, there's no doubt about that. And like, he always has a headache, so I'm sure he's stress eating a lot.
Yeah.
As far as a universe that makes sense for this Pokemon movie to kind of be set in, does Detective Pikachu not make the most sense out of anything? Like, because I don't imagine they could ever do a main, like, people have talked about, could they do it? Like, could they make this into a cinematic universe? Could we see more Pokemon really come out? Like, first of all, let this one come out before we start like guessing what else we see coming out. But second of all, no, like I don't think we're going to see some sort of cinematic universe because Pokemon can never be set in the real world. Because I don't think Nintendo or Game Freak or anyone really wants to see, or the Pokemon Company wants to see. I don't think there's going to be any Poke blood in this. There's not going to be any bleeding. No one's bleeding. I'm telling you that right now. And like second of all, at the end there where Charizard goes to like use bite on Pikachu, we're never going to see Charizard bite on Pikachu because like that is going to end up really messy.
He's gonna like just barely miss him. That's all.
Exactly. Like when no one's seen Pikachu getting snapped in half here. Like let's not worry about that. So like, and that's what I mean with like a mainline Pokemon game's being set into a movie. It literally limits themselves to what they're going to obviously do with this movie and say like, they got hit with a water attack, or they got hit with the wind attack. There's going to be different elemental attacks that can possibly hit and like bruise up the Pokemon and rough them up a little bit, but there's not going to be there's never going to be any type of bite moves or physical attacks that are going to be used on the other Pokemon that could really hurt them.
I have not read any comments about a cinematic universe, and just so you have introduced this concept to me, and it's giving me a like Psyduck level headache right now.
Yeah.
Like people talking about that, like just shut up. Like, I'm sorry, I know it's your opinion, everybody should have opinions, but God, I hate yours.
I know, seriously. And like, I just can't understand how it even works in the real world.
Yeah, I don't care. Like, stop. I don't want it. I so don't want that. Like, give me this little digestible, trashy movie. Not that it's going to be bad, I just mean it's going to be easily consumed or something. Exactly. Just give me this and, do your little stupid stuff. If you make another one in the future, then whatever. But, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Shut up, cinematic universe.
To jump back to the Pokemon game, the Detective Pikachu
yes, let's
game,
keep it upbeat. Got a lot of twists.
So, like, that was actually, like, I really enjoyed what I've played of that. I haven't finished it, but I really enjoyed what I played of that. And, as I said, this kind of follows it very loosely. Like, in that game, the Pokemon get red eyes and they start to go kind of mad and attack people. That seems to be what's kind of happening here a little bit, like with some of the Pokemon. You don't see the red eyes, but I'm imagining that's why they're trying to figure out that mystery at the same time of figuring out where his dad's gone. But the real difference here is that game is very much aimed at children. Like, not at children, but like at a younger audience. And the whole presentation of the game, the fact that the main character feels a lot younger than this kid is. If you can call him a kid, I don't know how old he is. He feels like he's pretty old.
In the film, yeah, he seems like 17, doesn't he?
Yeah, something around that age. I would imagine.
I only watched the trailer like twice, so I don't quite remember.
Yeah, me too. But like, he definitely feels like he's more late teens than anything. And I'm guessing the girl in there is the reporter from the game, but like again, she's much younger in the game. I don't think she has a Psyduck with her the whole time, but so it seems like it's going to be loosely based on this, which is cool. Like, and again, the same story premise, but I think because like he's much younger in the game and an upbeat kid, he's like, oh yeah, I want to go find my dad. Which like where in the movie he's like, no, I'm not a detective. It's just they're just portraying it a little bit more darker, which suits the movie a lot more, I think.
Interesting. Like, on that note, though, I would really like. This is just me talking. This is not possibly like doable or anything like that, but I would just love it if they did like a Detective Pikachu film like this, where like the Detective Pikachu is like hardened from all of his experiences, but he's still got a soft core, sort of like a Lethal Weapon kind of situation. And he's just like smoking his cigarettes and he's like, yeah, looks like the dame was killed, Pika. Like, yeah, I just want to see like something something rough for whatever reason. Like, just because it's a combination of like cute and awful, you know? Like, I want to hear them talk about like the worst adult themes. Pikachu. It's never going to happen, ever.
No, it's never going to happen. But I did want to mention to you, what do you think of the voice, Ryan Reynolds for Pikachu?
It's fine. It's fine. It's a little cutie.
Do you prefer over the games? Like, have you listened to much of the games?
The like Detective Pikachu?
Yeah.
You know, I heard, of course, when the Japanese trailer first came out, I never heard the English one. And I now can't even remember what the Japanese one sounded like. Doesn't he sound like sort of like a serious adult man?
Yeah, he's like much more gruff and adult man. Like, almost more towards the direction that you were talking about a second ago. That's much more like the direction that they went with his voice, and I much prefer that. Like, I love it.
Yeah. Just because it's weird and it's funny, and like with that, the whole Danny DeVito thing that people were doing on the internet when that came out, like we need a Danny DeVito cameo, or like we need Danny DeVito to be the one that plays Psyduck, but he literally only says "Psy-I-I," that kind of thing. Just like the "I am Groot" thing with the Guardians of the Universe or Guardians of the Galaxy, something like that. We just need it. I need it so bad. I love Danny DeVito.
We got a little bit of news from NIS, or Nippon Ichi Software, who...
Sugoi! That means amazing. Sorry.
I was going to say, you're really going to have to explain that one to me. So they do this, apparently a summer greetings card, which, like, I don't know if that's a Japanese thing, but I love the idea that they sent out a summer greetings card to, like, maybe their fans or whoever they get it out to everyone. But on that summer greetings card, they had a little bit of a teaser at the top, like 2 new characters that we had never seen before in any of their previous games. Yeah. And then just I think it was early last week in an edition of Famitsu, which is Famitsu weekly. I thought it was a monthly magazine.
Gosh, I don't know because I'm not a regular reader.
It was. I think it was weekly. Anyway, so they released this basically information dump on this new RPG that they're working on. So it is called Destiny Connect.
That's Japanglish.
It is coming in February 28th, 2019. However,
super soon.
Yeah, of course, being a translator, you'll be able to get your hands on this early. And did you ever like just play games like this early just to kind of see what they're like before they possibly come over here, only? Or
yeah, I do actually. So, a lot. Like, for example, I've been playing this game isn't getting translated for the West, but Snack World on the Switch.
Oh, I think I've seen a lot of stuff about that. Why is that not getting translated? I'm really disappointed.
I don't know. I wonder if they're like waiting on like a television deal to happen, and then that's what's gonna happen. I don't know. There's got to be some weird not legal, but like business reasons that it's not getting translated, because it's very strange that wouldn't get translated.
Yeah, wow. Like all of a sudden I'm really sad about that not getting translated now, because like that just looks amazing and I love Fantasy Life. So yeah.
So with this one I might do that just because the game looks really good to me. The game is like, just by looking at some of the screenshots, it's giving me like vibes of like Dark Cloud, which I think was released as Dark Chronicle in both Europe and Australia.
Oh, that explains why I played Dark Chronicle.
Yes, yeah. So you got Dark Chronicle 1 and 2, and then the States got Dark Cloud 1 and 2. And then okay. I don't actually remember what the Japanese title was.
Yeah, well, I'm getting the same vibes, you're right.
Yeah, I get those vibes. I get like Persona 3 for some reason. I don't exactly know why Persona 3, but Persona 3 and Persona Q as well. And it's just kind of like whimsical Willy Wonka kind of thing going on with the visuals, and I really am all about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely the same way. So like apparently this uses a different artist than they obviously use for a lot of their games. You probably noticed that like with NIS games that they seem to really, especially like, so in the past they've done Disgaea 1, Disgaea 5, Penny Punching Princess, Longest 5 Minutes. This is all the Switch games, by the way. Yeah. Labyrinth of Refrain, which Nat has been playing a lot of. And you mentioned the other week, Yomawari. Yeah, so that they've done all of those, but like a lot of them kind of continue, like have this similar type of art style. Now this one here is using an artist that I couldn't actually find any information on, with just the quick searches that I've done, which is Yu Inabe or Inaba.
Yeah, sorry, yes, that's correct. I was going to say the same thing though, that I didn't recognize any of these people's names, and I was like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? And when I was looking over the scans, the one guy, Yoshihiko Toda, he mentioned how he was in his 30s, and I was like, oh cool, like relatively genuinely young people for the Japanese video game development scene. Like usually you don't get like handed this kind of stuff in your 20s. So this is exciting. Like, this is a game from younger people, which I think is great because there's way too much cronyism in Japanese game development.
Yeah, there definitely is.
There's a totally different subject to talk about later. But yes, this game looks really cool. And sorry, Inaba, you were talking about him. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just going to mention that, like, because it's from this different artist, like the art style is I think that's what kind of brings this very different and unique kind of art style to the game. And in fact, they even said, like, they wanted a sense of beauty and comfort that was only achievable with these deformed graphics. And, like, first of all, deformed is a weird choice of words there, but
yeah. So on that, the word deformed, like, there is a whole genre of things where, like, before, I guess we were calling it chibi, which is just like cute little tiny thingy in Japanese, and but now these days we've been calling things super deformed or deformed. But actually, that word has existed in Western lexicon before, but it just seems it's more popular now. I remember a video game on the 64 that referred to something as super deformed or SD version. And it's like stuff that we see on the 3DS a lot. It's like World of Final Fantasy, the little, chibi. Well, I just said chibi, Jesus. Those guys are super deformed technically, so that's kind of what they mean by that. It is weird because when you think of deformed, like, I don't know, I think about like a medical condition.
Yeah, same. That's why, like, it just kind of threw me. I'm like, what? Deformed? Like, did something happen?
yeah, right. But again, on the art style, I kind of see where they're going with that, where they're like, well, they don't want to make it super realistic. And regardless of proportions of characters, I get that because everything else feels very whimsical, and it kind of puts together like a fantastical mood that pushes your player to sort of subconsciously accept while they're playing the game.
What they said in one of their statements is that they're going for a nostalgic feel to Super Famicom, which it doesn't really remind me of anything Super Famicom or...
It doesn't, for me either.
Yeah, but, like, hopefully they're going for that kind of more atmosphere of the game, but I don't know, like, how do you capture the Super Famicom atmosphere in a game that doesn't look 16-bit or anything like that? That's what I wonder.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I want to hear more about that, because we have seen that happen in some games like I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere, and then of course with Octopath Traveler, where they try to capture that Super Famicom RPG feel. And they're hit and miss on that. I think that Octopath Traveler was more hit on that than the others were. But it's going to be interesting to see what exactly they mean by that. If they just mean like, gosh, I don't know. Like, there's sort of like a comfort that comes to a lot of 90s JRPGs for me, where it's like, okay, I know that I have to visit another town, I have to visit another dungeon. I don't know exactly for what reason and like what is going to happen, but there's a bit of like an underlying pattern that makes you feel very comfortable and very good as a gamer. That's why, like, at least for me, for specific people, I mean, not for everybody, but like for me, I find a lot of comfort in playing old JRPGs and replaying them over and over. Just, it's relaxing. So hopefully that's what they're trying to do. And if they achieve that, boy, they've got me sold, like they're talking about time travel and it's turn-based, and oh, it's great.
I did want to mention that quickly. They said the story's set in like 1999 New Year's Eve, and like,
yes.
It's supposed, the inspiration was literally like Y2K happening, and
Y2K the game. That's what we're getting here. Y2K the Japan-made freaking turn-based RPG. Like, how I never would have believed that.
I know, and like it's so weird. It's like done by NIS, who, like, they always make these like very, very, I don't know, Japanese heavy troped kind of games in the first place, but their games are always full of like deep systems and many layers to the way the RPG works. So I'm kind of excited that they got it to do a project like this with such a unique take on a story with like time travel and Y2K and stuff like happening. It's not something I expected.
Yeah, I have not seen real world concept of Y2K being used in like a game that I can think of, but specifically a JRPG, So I'm looking forward to that. I did want to mention a couple of different things because I was looking through the scans, and most of the news, I didn't see all of the parts translated from the scans. So is it cool if I bring up a couple of little points that I read on the scans? Yeah? Okay. They're tiny little details, but still maybe somebody would be interested to know. There is some like mysterious boy that saves our protagonist, Sherry, and her party from a bunch of evil machines that started to appear on the day that time stood still. And the day that time stood still is 1999, December 31st. or 31st of December for all of you crazy people that write the date like that.
Hey.
And then there's also like souls or spirits that live inside certain things, apparently. I don't know, that was just a little blurb that was written on one of the scans.
Yeah, that's strange.
It is indeed like a turn-based game that is the turns are based on speed stats, and you gain new skills as you gain experience, so very classic. And I already mentioned that guy Yoshihiko was in his 30s, which I thought was of note. And then the other thing is that your robot party member, which is this big yellow thing that you see in all the scans, he's very noticeable. You get to totally customize him, apparently, with like gears and stuff. You get to change his fighting style. And then there's like a little picture, I think on our website, we have it under like scan number 4. If you check out our website, it has like a customizable skill tree looking image in the very bottom. They don't say that, but I mean, that's what it looks like. So it's going to be kind of interesting that you can customize one of your party members in just any way that you want it to fight.
That is really interesting. I want to kind of jump back to that robot that you were talking about a second ago, the way that he's kind of customizable. I think that's kind of, I'll be interesting to see how that works into the fight, as well as like, does it change him cosmetically at all? Because like at the moment, he kind of reminds me of, I don't know, the android out of the Android phones. I don't know, the green Android kind of icon that goes to him.
I thought you were going to say Robo from Chrono Trigger, and you went...
Oh, yeah, like 100%. That's the other thing that I was going for.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like, and then, yeah, Robo out of Chrono Trigger, he 100%, like, I just assumed it was something to do with Chrono Trigger when I first saw the art pop up. I was like, oh, there's something to do with Chrono Trigger coming up.
Yeah, you can totally tell by their, that was one of their influences. To sort of answer your question, I think that you are right that it will cosmetically change the way they look, because next to that blurb about like customizing your robot, there's a picture of him and he's got like a fire axe in one hand and I think overalls on or something like that, and he's got a helmet on or something like that, so he looks totally different than just, naked gold robot, which that's weird. So I'm really excited about this. It's I don't know, just this is totally for me. This is like gaming because games are fun kind of thing. And
exactly. That's why I'm kind of really hoping this gets some sort of translation, because this is totally for me as well. Like, I'm just really down and full into the weeds of this type of game. So I had to talk about it today. All right, we're back, and we're here with listener mail. Now, before we actually get into reading some of your questions, I figured we should probably let people know where they can write their questions if they want to be heard in this segment and they want to discover all the parts of the Bowsette. So, people can reach us on the email address, nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com. Only back me up.
That's nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
Now, I'm also going to ask people, actually, not people, Oni, the other person with me at the moment, to
Hello.
read the first email.
Okay, so we got email from Mobius. Mobius writes, with the added functionality of the switch motes. Who says switch motes?
I've never heard that. Never.
Yeah, no one says switch motes. Okay, Mobius. With the added functionality of the switch motes / Joy-Cons. There you go. What game would you like to see that can make use of the new features we haven't seen yet? IR, camera, HD rumble, etc. Alternatively, is there any new gimmick controllers that you would like to see? I feel Nintendo Labo is a good start to seeing some interesting innovations. Keep on using every part of the Bowsette. Thank you, Mobius.
Thank you, Mobius. And I love it that your Bowsette thing has just turned into what everyone asks about now.
Sure, let's do
Everyone
it.
has a comment about it.
I'll introduce a new part. There's a lot of cuts. There's a lot of cuts to the meat,
All right, so let's dive into the thigh today. We have a lot of thigh fillet.
Oh.
Sorry.
One of my favorite parts.
So I kind of had a lot to kind of unfold here with this email because
yeah, it's an interesting question, isn't it?
It really is. I like gimmicks in a way. Like, in a strange way, I think they're core to Nintendo's design, and the fact that, like, we wouldn't see things like Labo or all these other things kind of come out of Nintendo unless they were not afraid to take risks with this different ideas and different. I hate the word gimmicks, but like gimmicks.
Yeah, it's got a negative connotation, but yeah.
So like in the past, Nintendo has designed a lot of their controllers around these gimmicks around that kind of one idea, and one that kind of comes to mind is like instantly you think of, well, Mario 64 when they designed the 64 controller. That's what everyone knows, that like that's what they had in mind.
That thing sucks.
But apparently that too.
That's a callback.
Later in life, in the console's life, Nintendo always seems to lack the foresight of what to do with these ideas. So the reason I mention this is like at the moment we've kind of seen Labo come out. I think that Labo is Nintendo's idea of when they designed the Switch, this is the kind of gimmick that we want to go with and build stuff around. I feel like that was their Mario 64, or their, what was the launch game with the Wii U tablet? Nintendo Land.
Yeah,
I feel like that was their Nintendo Land. But again, when it got to the end of the console of the Wii U's life cycle, all we ever saw was like, what were all the just maps and different things like that on the touchscreen, inventories, you know, that was just kind of let's do this one thing on the touchscreen, but we never really saw much innovation after the start of the Wii U's life cycle, which I guess, again, they're going back to that lack of foresight by Nintendo.
Well,
and so
look at what they did with Star Fox Zero. So
I know. They kind of blew us away with that one. So
oh god,
literally. And so I don't know, like if like as a point of Nintendo, before we actually get into the question itself, I don't know whether Nintendo really has anything else up its sleeve that isn't Labo related. Like I wonder if they really plan on taking any of these ideas to the next level. Like, what do you think?
Well, on that note, I think that last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, when the President Furukawa, he was talking about some different plans for stuff in the future, I think he did say that they had something up their sleeve that was Labo-esque. I don't know if they referred to Labo in particular, but he at least alluded to it. It doesn't have to necessarily be Labo, but at least it is something that is something we haven't thought of, kind of thing, as the consumer.
Something different.
So I think that maybe they do have something like that up their sleeve, and I would honestly like to see Labo continue. Labo is not for me, and I haven't bought any, and I don't really plan on it, but I just think that edutainment is like a completely separate sector than gaming, and I think that it's a good medium that Nintendo can prosper in. You know, they do pretty good with things like that, like we saw with the Wii, with the health stuff, and you know, getting people into gaming with that. And I could see something that's a bit more Labo-esque, or a bit more edutainment-esque. Something that I haven't thought of because I'm clearly not a creator.
There's definitely an audience there, though, like, because in the past, the whole edutainment thing that you're talking about used to be massive. Like, there used to just be game companies out there dedicated to just making as much edutainment properties as they possibly could in a short period of time, you know? And, like, obviously that died off for a little while, and what I'm going to call normal games, because I love that term, kind of took over again. But there's still a market out there for edutainment, and Nintendo's certainly the one to capture that. Now, as far as the question, like, do I have any ideas? I think it's really kind of hard to think of a new concept. Like, as I was going over this, what could I possibly do? Like, you know, like taking everything that Nintendo has in there. And like, so I kind of unfolded a little bit here and think like, well, the HD Rumble is kind of tricky, because if it's gameplay, most of the time I feel like you can't, like, it's there, it's definitely there, but you can't feel it. So like in Tumbleseed, one of the very early Switch games, a lot of the time I was too concentrating on surviving my way up the hill that I never really felt that I was rolled, like that the rumble felt different between the different seeds that I had. And so that's just kind of one example there of like how HD Rumble can be tricky, because yeah, like I said, if it's gameplay, you don't feel it. And if it's not gameplay, the alternative is that it's almost what we're going to call a gimmick. So whether it be in like Mario Party, where you have to use the HD Rumble for a mini game. So I just kind of wondered, like, how do you kind of get away from HD Rumble not being either on the mini game side of thing, or being not being felt because it's just not priority in the main game. And a couple more things here. We've got the infrared as well. The infrared it's the same type of trickiness there, because it's it's almost dependent on like being like Labo type stuff that disconnects you from the game and requires you to do something completely separate. And so almost takes you out of the experience to be able to experience it. And then the last problem, before I actually really answer the question and give some examples of what I think here, is the motion controls. Now, like obviously the motion controls are something that we can certainly see expand into a lot more kind of different things still, and I don't think we've quite seen how far motion controls can really go. Like we've obviously seen the Pokeball come up recently with just throwing the Pokeball. That's nothing amazing, but like it's definitely something.
No, if I get to throw a Pokeball and pretend I'm Ash for a second, like I'm in the anime, and throw that Pokeball, that's amazing.
I think, like, we were talking about Pokemon earlier, but I think that's almost one of the things that I'm enjoying the most about the game for some reason. I don't know why I'm that crazy, but I'm definitely crazy. So yeah, like, but I also feel like motion controls are also tricky because it always almost separates an audience. There's always an audience of people out there that's like, well, we can't pay this, or we don't like motion controls, or we don't want this in our game. Which I mean, it's going to be the same with any gimmick, but I feel like motion controls is going to got that stigma to it. Now, actual ideas that I had since I'm done talking about why this concept was so hard to come up with. So first of all, Dragon Quest Heroes had a really good idea. The different enemies in the game, I think it was Dragon Quest Heroes anyway, the different enemies in the game when you swung your sword, it felt different.
I don't think that's Dragon Quest Heroes.
No, it was Dragon Quest 1 and 2 or something, I don't know.
Yeah, it was called something, but I know what you're talking about. It was on the Wii, right?
No, this was on Switch.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I don't think it came out of Japan, so I think it might be Dragon Quest Heroes because it didn't come out of Japan. Like I think it might have only been over there, so like I never actually got to try it. But apparently, the different enemies that you swing your sword into feel differently. So if you swung it at a metal slime, it makes a feeling of hitting something metallic. Where if you swung if you swung it at just a normal slime, it feels like you're hitting something obviously slimy. And so they kind of went for I don't know, just different feels that go between them.
That's crazy because I have that game, but I haven't played the second one because it's in 1 and 2 is in there, and I've only played the first one, and I haven't noticed anything. So maybe it's only in the second game. But
maybe you'd have to feel for it. Like I don't know.
I'm gonna have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I read it before, but then I couldn't remember if it was like I just read Dragon Quest and Heroes, or like whether Dragon Quest Heroes or Dragon Quest something else. I don't remember, but I would like to see that when Dragon Quest 11 comes over to Switch, them implement something similar into that. I think that would be kind of cool. It's just when the character attacks, the vibration feels different or something like that, depending on the attack and what you're hitting.
I can't wait until the game comes out in 2022.
I know, it's going to be forever. And it also makes me think of games like Minecraft. And like if I was kind of mining away at materials and that, I would love for the HD Rumble to kind of tell me that, I'm hitting rock or I'm hitting tree or I'm digging through sand. Just that different feeling to the stuff that I'm actually interacting with in the game coming through on the Joy-Con.
So I super agree with that. Like, for example, in Blaster Master, when you start up in that game and like you're in a vehicle and then it revs up, your HD Rumble revs up on your hand, and it's such a cool feeling, and you're like, oh, that's awesome. That doesn't change gameplay by any means. It doesn't have to be HD Rumble or anything like that. That's just a nice little extra. And to be honest, that's how I find gimmicks work best. But that's the thing too, is that it costs money to implement these things. It costs time. So it's hard to find the value in that, right? For when it costs you extra time and money and it's just a nice little bonus or something. So for me, I like very passive things. Or like with Splatoon, with the aiming with the motion controls, you can totally turn it off. It's totally an option. And if you want to, you can aim, and it seems to make it a bit more precise, most people will say. And I like that. Same thing with Zelda. You can turn it off, except for a couple of those puzzles, which that's not cool. You should always have options. Just little things like that are how these gimmicks work best for me, at least.
I think that's always the best way to do it. You're right that like having an option, first of all, is always best, and second of all, having them as, like I mentioned at the start, they're kind of underlaying. They're not anything that's too over the top that's going to completely change the way the game works and that you need them to do.
Yes, totally. Because at the end of the day, sometimes I just want to sit down and put a frigging controller in my hand and press damn buttons, Like, that's why I didn't end up playing the Wii a whole lot, is because a lot of times there was like the forced, I hate to sound stupid and say the word forced, but the mandatory motion controls, like with playing Mario Galaxy, and you had to flick your wrist to do the twirling attack or whatever. Like, just let me press a button, like let me hold a controller in my hands, that kind of thing. So I much prefer that kind of thing, where it's passive and it's optional. One of my favorite things with the Joy-Con is something that we haven't talked about yet, and it's that it's two separate controllers, and it's like two like controller layouts in your hands. So I can lay down on my couch in lazy mode where one hand is like under my back and the other one is like above my head like a crazy person. But for whatever reason, that 2 minutes is like the most comfortable way to lay down. And like, I just love that. That's what I love the most about the Switch's gimmick, if you want to call it that. I don't care so much about the camera, the IR, even the HD rumble. I can give it or take it. Like, these little things are nice, but that's just what I love the most about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same there. Like, the rest of them, like, they can work in their own separate environments, but like they're always give and take. Whereas like actually disconnecting the controllers from there is something that's like I can totally just be comfortable in any way that I sit. And like same with having the tablet, like I can just put my tablet touchscreen anywhere that I want, or I can hold it in my hands. Like having those options, I think is something that's really what is key to the Switch.
Yeah, totally.
Now, for one more that I've kind of got here, the only other one that I could really think of was that I've been wanting a Mario Maker game to come back for a long time. I would either want the one to come back from the Wii U onto the Switch or a new game in general. I just love Mario Maker. But maybe to increase the tension, just a little thing here, maybe the rumble intensifies when you get to an area where people have died the most. So as you're running through the Mario Maker level that someone's created, when you get to near somewhere where people have started like to constantly drop off, or there's a lot of deaths happening here, have the rumble start to kick in more. So you're like, oh god, like the tension kind of just kicks in, and you kind of know something is coming or something bad. Or this is a hard area.
Yeah, you just made me sort of think of something where, so if you're in a 2D Mario game and you're like really close to lava or something like that, then it starts to like sort of rumble because like instead of feeling the heat, you feel like the bubbliness of it in your hand. And just like when you're close to peril or something like that, just feeling some rumble to add some extra tension. I like that idea. I think I'd have to see it in practice and see if it's like super annoying or something. Because you know how in like a lot of first-person games they'll do the vignetting if you're like close to death. That's a great idea, but it drives me nuts. It drives me totally nuts. So
it's like I'm just trying to concentrate, and all of a sudden like there's all this overlay over the top of my screen, so I can't see what's going on properly anyway.
Or like in Zelda games where they have like the ding 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 and you're about to die because your health is low. I hate it so much. Give
me 2 dings and that's all I need. Like I know that I'm low health now.
Give me a damn option. Let me turn it on or off. That's what I want. Give me an option.
Yeah. And the other idea that I had from Mario Maker here was something a little bit more crazy. And I'd like to kind of see that you could purchase real sheets or grids of Mario Maker objects and place them on like a kind of a back sheeting type thing, and then use the IR camera to scan them into the game. So like you're literally making a physical version of the level that you want to make and then scanning that into the game. So like using your actual hands to put together Mario Maker levels. I think that'd be cool.
That's interesting. That's really interesting, actually. I don't have anything else to say about that, but I like the idea. I've never thought of that before.
I know. It's interesting, it's crazy, and it's something that like I really doubt would happen, but it's also like that type of, that's a really Nintendo thing that like you could see Nintendo doing.
It's the Nintendo Everything podcast. We got to dream big.
Anyway, do you have anything else to add for Mobius's question before we move into the out?
A bit. One thing is that like I'm wondering like, okay, well, what games in the future would use like this kind of technology, right? I think that the upcoming Metroid Prime 4 is a prime candidate to use all of these different things because, you know, Samus has all these different options in her suit and whatever. And so I would like to see some of these gimmicks added in, potentially as optional, you know, optional, to solve some puzzles or to activate something. I would really like that.
Had something like
Sorry?
That. Like I think the Metroid Prime remakes had something along those lines of like you could use motion controls to kind of help yourself aim in those games.
Yeah, that was actually the best feature, and that was like that's the game that I recommend and like say is like the highlight of playing with a Wiimote and a nunchuck is the Metroid Prime games actually. Because they do that. You can aim with the pointer, you're doing stuff with your left hand, and it feels great. It feels very Samus-like, and I love that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to Metroid Prime 4. Maybe they can use some of this stuff. Don't say Switch modes. That's my suggestion. No one says that.
All right, well, before we go today, why don't we remind everyone on the email address that they can reach us, which is nintendoeverythingpod@gmail.com.
That's nintendoeverythingpod @gmail.com.
All right, and if you enjoy mystery gifts in Pokemon, then one of the biggest mystery gifts that you can give us is a 5-star iTunes rating. So please, if you have the time, make sure to give us one of them. And before we go, why don't we throw out where people can follow us, where they can find us, where can people find the world of Oni?
They can find, that's great. They can find the world of Oni Maxima over on Twitter at Oni_Dino. Where can they find you?
They can find me at Nintendo Numbers, and the website they can find at, I'll leave it to you again, Oni.
Sure. So we have a website's Twitter that is at NinEverything. We also have the YouTube that is youtube.com/NinEverything. And then we have our main website. That's nintendoeverything.com. You should definitely check that out because we post news all the frickin' time. Our editors and reporters are hard at work throughout the day and night, posting news all the damn time. We're always up to date on a whole bunch of different stuff. You don't have to worry about, oh, this news is a day old. You know, Nintendo Everything has everything.
Thank you for joining me, Oni.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for joining me.
just got left you hanging there. And for everything Nintendo, stay tuned to Nintendo Everything.
Bye.